Hey everyone, this is J-Belle and this is Geeky Vices, where I talk about some of my latest geeky interests that I've been into recently. And this is Jazz, by the way, which I'm sure you probably have seen him in at least one of my videos right now. Um, so yeah, he may be popping in and out. He's a cat. Cats do cat things. But I feel like this week my term geeky vices might be a little bit more relevant than usual because the topic I'm going to be discussing is the Vaginal Fantasy Book Club, which, trust me, every time I type it into YouTube, you get lots of horrifying things along the way, but it's not at all what you think it is. It's a romance book club where they talk about genre books like fantasy or historical fiction or science fiction or steampunk or werewolves. I mean, very much like all sorts of like these cool genre romance uh, books. And the thing is that it was started by Felicia Day and three of her friends, and they would have it so they would have very, very active Goodread forums and such, and really strong fan base where they actually had like fellow groups like book clubs like all over the world. Like it wasn't just like across the US. No, there was definitely a good amount, especially in Europe. I know like definitely in England, and I know like in like the some of the Scandinavian countries as well tended to have some good groups. But Felicia Day like started. I think it was originally on either her own YouTube channel or it was on the Geek and Sundry. I can't remember because the series lasted for 5 years, and unfortunately it wrapped up a few months ago. I'll go into that. But eventually they made their own YouTube channel. And it's not the first, one of the first Google Hangouts, which they talk about, and they talk about how frustrating the Google Hangout format would be every month to go to, and like how like they would completely change how it all worked. So there's a reason why that's probably not a very common medium for people. But yeah, it was really cool. And here's the thing. I didn't actually read the books. I used to be a big reader back when I was in like middle school, high school, like early 20s, but I don't know, just life. I'd love to get back into reading, but it just hasn't been my thing. But although I did read one of the alt books like years ago, it's like one of my favorite books because most months they would have like the main book, which they would talk about, and an alt book. Although in the earlier episodes, they would talk about both the main and the alt. But no, the biggest thing was that it was Felicia Day, who I adore, who is basically the queen of geekdom, talking with her friends Veronica Belmont, Bonnie Burton, and Kyla Caseby, and they all have they're all definitely geeky people in their own rights. I mean, Felicia Day is definitely like the famous one of them. Although a lot of people might know of Veronica Belmont because she does have her other book club, Sword and Laser, and she does do some other shows, which I wish I knew about. But yeah, like she's very like tech savvy, and like she does do a lot of speaking type stuff for a living. And then Bonnie Burton is a writer and craft lady, and she's done some like crafting books. Like I know she's done like a Star Wars crafting books, and she did a feminist crafting books where one of the examples in one of the video and one of the Google Hangouts that she happened to have around her home was that it was a giant like uterus pretty much pillow that you could wrap your arms around and stick a heating pad in, so like the heating pad would be like hugged against your belly. So that was like her type of stuff. And then Kyla, I'm not as 100% sure what her actual career was, but I do know that she reads a lot and that she does play a lot of video games, and I know that she is somehow like in the industry as well. But yeah, honestly, the biggest reason why I watch a show is because when I'd be feeling very socially isolated or lonely, it kind of was faux socialization. Like you just felt like you were hanging out with a bunch of friends, just watching, because like they are so like loving and warm towards each other, even though they are so different. Like they have different opinions, and so it was great for when you just kind of are feeling down and you kind of just need to feel like you're not as alone out there. And yeah, it was funny, like the topics, because like it was romance novels, so some of the side tangents would get pretty off topic because it'd be like they would just things about like how outdoor sex is never comfortable, and they go into very specifics about that, or they will go into yeah. And they would sometimes have guests on the shows over years. Like I know that they had like a science guy a few years ago for one of their episodes that was set in space, and he was talking to kind of like give a scientific perspective. And he was actually the only guy to ever be a guest on the show. And I know, I believe it was Hannah Hart. I believe she does drunk cooking, and I think she now has a Food Network show. But I know she appeared in one of the episodes when they read a girl on girl book to have a lesbian perspective on things. But yeah, as I said, the show was kind of just been there for me for years, and I am sad it wrapped up. But honestly, they've had their lives happen. I mean, as I said, it was 5 years. So like, think about it. Like since that time, there's been marriages, there's been babies. It's just like people. It's hard to get their all together, and I understand. It's just I hope even if they don't do actual book club, like they're talking about if there's still the book club is still going like off. Besides their hangouts, like if the Goodreads is still going, that they might try doing like anniversary, like hangouts. Like I hope they do it, even if it's not even about the actual book, because I just like watching them hanging out together. Because as I said, it kind of when I felt isolated and like maybe not as in touch with my own friends, like it kind of was that surrogate feeling. And I think for some people that could be really nice. And also like I'll probably go back and try reading some of those books at some point, even though I don't really read romance novels. Like the one book was one of their alt books that I did read years ago, was because it was a high fantasy book that I fell in love with that author, and it was the first book in a duo of trilogies that connected to each other. And I didn't think it was a romance novel, but I can definitely see why they had it listed in there. But yeah, I'm gonna miss it. As I said, like they've been part of my life, and honestly, I would me and the significant other would sometimes compare them to how the dynamic was with me and some of my friends. Like, Bonnie was usually like the one who would have the most shock value as far as what she would say, and like she's super loving and caring, but like she definitely like was like the one who was sometimes would be the most out there, and like she totally reminds me of my friend Jessica, who's the craziest person I know. I was kind of like the Veronica. I'm kind of the Veronica in my group where it's like I can be kind of like loud and silly, but also kind of like serious at the same time. And then like one of my other friends, she's kind of like a cross between Felicia and Kyla, where she's like a little bit quieter and like probably a little bit more easier embarrassed by some of the crazy things we say, but then they kind of like come in with their own things. We're like okay, yeah. But as I said, like like they might not realize it, but they've been part of my life for the past 5 years, and I'm sad to see the show ended, but honestly, since it's me, I will be inevitably rewatching the sessions, and it also works for me like just kind of good background noise. So yeah, I recommend it. Hopefully some people will find some good books this way, or as I said, like some people like me might find it a good outlet for just like when you're like a hiding out introvert and you just kind of overestimate your lack of needing outside contact. It just kind of like provides that in a safe little way where it's like it feels like you're hanging out with friends. This is like it's just them goofing with each other, and it's just like it feels like it's kind of like if you're the wallflower at like a party that you're just like watching some really cool engaging conversation. It's kind of like that feeling. So yeah, and I'm sorry, I know I say oh yeah a lot, but that's just how my brain works. I'm clearly not that experienced at this yet, and I don't really rehearse. This is all stream of consciousness, so I figure that is part of the joy. So yeah, this has been one of my latest geeky vices. I hope you guys continue to enjoy your own, and until next time, thanks everyone. Bye.